Cheers. Thank you.
Brilliant. But without much further ado, I'll hand over to you guys. Is that okay?
Yeah, thanks so much.
Round of applause.
Dan, you going to share screen?
Yep.
Got a blank page. We've got tech issues.
Tech issues.
Bear with us. All right. You're going to go.
Yeah. Do that.
Okay. Well, thank you for having us. Really, really good to speak to you. I think some of the Bulletproof team in London have been over to Preston Uni before. My first time meeting you guys and speaking to you. But hello, I'm Liam. I'm the creative director in Bulletproof Amsterdam. I've been with Bulletproof as a business for coming up 12 years this year. I started in London and then moved over to New York to help grow that office over there and spent 7 years in the States, and then moved to Amsterdam to open the office here in 2020, peak COVID, which wasn't ideal, but we made it work, and we're now a team of about 22 people in Amsterdam, so a little bit smaller than London, which is about 180. But love it, love bringing the culture of the agency to a new place, but being a little bit more kind of open to the culture and sensibilities of the people in the city of Amsterdam. Sam was actually employee number 3.
It's two
for me in Amsterdam. So he's been here since the beginning. Sam, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, 2019 was the year I moved over here. Moved over for a different firm. And then after a year, I moved on to Bulletproof with Liam. So I think when we started, it was a single little room, the single desk, and a couple of computers between us. So it's been exciting to see the business grow and the studio grow over those few years, getting a bit more of an insight into how things are run and how a studio kind of develops and creations over the time. So it's been interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Today we're gonna talk you through a little bit around what we do, our processes, the way we think as an agency, and the way that we approach creativity. We're going to run you through some work, some Amsterdam specific projects and some projects that Sam has been instrumental on. So he's going to take you through some of his creative work and give you a little bit of a flavour of the kind of work that we do here. Sam has also put together some principles that he's learned along the way in his journey, and then we'd love to save some time for any questions at the back end. But without further ado, let's jump into it and give you a bit of a flavour for who we are and what we do. I'm sure, as this is Teams, this is probably glitching out and a bit pixelated, but hopefully you can see this playing. It's a bit of a snapshot of some of our work.
You got the sound of this? Check it out.
Cool. You can tap us forward. Yeah. So in short, we're a 26 years young agency. We like to think of ourselves as young. We're 400 people built across 8 studios globally. London was the mothership, so London opened first. There are about 180 people in London. New York followed second, and we've got Amsterdam, Singapore, Shanghai, Sydney, Melbourne, and most recently Dubai. We're an independent brand design agency. So you might have seen in that, hopefully not too glitchy show reel, we work across a broad range of clients and sectors, from Oreo and Cadbury to Johnny Walker, Heineken in the Netherlands, but also in fashion, in travel, in technology, in sustainability, really covering a broad breadth of creative challenges and briefs. We've got some core beliefs behind our agency. I think most agencies that you'll probably meet will have some core beliefs that define who they are. These have been in every presentation that I've seen since 12 years of working at Bulletproof, and actually come from the original day one. Our two founders, Gush and Johnny, set up the agency. They went to art school together, and their tutor would make them present their work, and he would try and shoot it down. So hence the name Bulletproof. But the core beliefs are fundamental in the way in which we do business and guide our work in every project. As De La Soul said, 3 is the magic number. The first of which is that great ideas change the world. I don't think that we would be here, or you would be in the room in which you're in today, if we didn't believe that, right? That creativity itself has the ability to influence and pierce human behavior. It has the ability to affect change on a much bigger scale. The second of our core beliefs is that people make the difference. It's our people that are lifeblood of our agency. I think celebrating diversity in thinking is really important. Not only if we don't want to create an environment where it's the same people coming up with the same ideas. I mean, it's evident in our industry, and like, I'm a middle-aged white male, but that's the problem, right? We need to, especially from a youth level, ensure that we're celebrating diversity and actually having people create work that are part of the communities in which we're speaking to is fundamentally important. The last of our core beliefs is that we don't know it all, and we never will. And actually celebrating our naivety is really important. It leads to new and novel ideas, new ways of looking at things. We'll never know as much of our clients about their business as they do, but our advantage and what we can do is come in with fresh thinking, with uncharted solutions to their problems. So naivety is really important. It's these 3 things together that make Bulletproof what it is. It's those impenetrable ideas. So what's it like to work at an agency? I've been here for 12 years, so I might have drunk the Kool-Aid a little bit, but what I've got to see is what it's like to work in different offices globally. And I think Bulletproof, we really take culture seriously. Sam, if you can just tab us down. We want to create an environment where people want to be, where people want to work. I think having an environment that celebrates and fosters risk taking and creativity is really important, to make sure that you feel valued and rewarded for the work and the thinking that you bring. Is essentially why I get out of bed and go to work every day. Obviously, it's a creative business. We want it to be run by creatives. This is Gush and Johnny, 2 founders of Bulletproof and our business. They're still very much involved in the day-to-day. We're not part of a holding group. We're not governed and dictated by profitability and shareholders. We do the work that we want to do. We work with the clients that we want to work with, based on their creative merit and their ability to do work that is risk-taking and disruptive. So we're a creative first agency and business. Working at a global agency is great in that you have global opportunities. You can start in London, and you can travel, and I think that's kind of what's drawn me to the business and the industry, not only from where you work, but also with the clients you work with. So the ability to immerse yourself in cultures beyond those immediately in front of you is a really cool thing. And then looking at kind of the tenets that define us as a business, if we get these 2 right, we're doing good and things are working. The first of which is never compromising on the integrity of the creative, the work that we're doing. So, you know, if we're not making money and the client's a pain in the arse, we still need to make sure that the work we're delivering and the work that we're putting out to the world is knockout. And I think that's the most important thing that we can do and that you can do when you go into the work is never compromise the integrity of your work. So making sure that the speed bumps that get in the way of that don't compromise the output. So that's the first. And then the second is never compromising the well-being of our people. So don't create an environment or a way of working that puts people's well-being at risk, burnout, making sure that we have a compassionate, inclusive, and equitable environment where that diversity of thinking is celebrated, that people come in and enjoy their experience working for an agency. Those two things, if we get that right, we've done our job. We've got some pledges as an agency. These were actually written at the beginning of COVID. They start to kind of govern and dictate the way in which we work with clients. But I think are really important. They're kind of connected to our tenets and our core beliefs. But these are very much in place in everything that we do. Sam, you can tab us down quite quick. These are just simple things that we do in business and that we believe in to make sure that we're looking after our people, our planet, in the best way possible. We don't believe in single-day business trips. I think this is kind of important that we work with global clients. We're not flying all over the world to sit in meetings where, I mean, we're speaking to you today on Teams, and hopefully you get a sense of who we are. We don't need to burn carbon to be there. I think ensuring that we respect our planet and our people is really important. We're big believers in sitting down and breaking bread together. Food is an integral part of our culture. It's also a big part of our business and the clients that we work for, but we don't believe in wasting it. So what we actually do is every month we donate money to local food banks within our business to support the cities that all of our offices are in. And then lastly, we don't pitch for free, but we also don't keep that money. Whenever we do a pitch, we ask our clients for a fee for it, otherwise we don't go for it. And then any money that we get for pitching, we donate to charities that we believe in as a business. And I think making sure that we're giving back to communities and our cities is really important to feel connected to the broader ecosystem. So these are some of the business pledges that we make to make sure that we're giving back a little bit. But the most important part, here's some work. We're known for our output. We're known for the creative work that we do. We want to share with you some Amsterdam work. It gives you a bit of an insight into the breadth of the work that we do, the way in which we approach it, some of our thinking. I'm going to give over to Sam, who's going to talk us through the first case study. I'm going to jump in and kind of take us through a bit in the middle, and then back to Sam at the end. But let's start with Booking.com, a very Dutch business, if you didn't know that. Sam, over to you. You're good. You can.
I'll so Booking.com, I think most people will probably have heard of who Booking is or even used the service. They're a huge tech company based here in Amsterdam. And it's a travel platform essentially where you can book a travel experience, a hotel, B&B, the flights involved, and then having an experience through that network. So I think this was the first project we ever did for them. They approached us about creating a small campaign to kind of celebrate 25 years of their founding and 25 years of the success they've had in building their business. So we kind of built a strategy for that, we built a sort of visual identity system for it. And then we did the messaging and sort of rollout for that. I think when they came to us originally, I think it was more just like kind of a comms brief. But I think when we kind of sat down and thought about the sort of idea behind it and how can we celebrate the success that they've had, and we sort of looked at the core kind of point of how they became successful, and it was really down to the people that are involved in the company, the people that run the hotels, the people that build the platform from the back end that you don't see. So we decided to cater the whole kind of campaign around that, thanking essentially the people involved in the success. So the whole campaign would be just about thanking them and for their kind of unseen efforts in creating this successful business. So yeah, the challenge for them is that they wanted to create this campaign that They didn't want it to be kind of self-serving, saying, look at how amazing we're doing, look at the success we've had. It was more about, look at the success we've had that was shouldered on these people that have helped us get there. So I think once we had that kind of core idea of just turning this into a campaign about thanking the people, we could then start to think about how that would look. What would that entail? How would we bring all these elements together? So we created this kind of system that kind of celebrates the diversity of the people involved in the kind of businesses, in the kind of departments that all come together to create this platform that works for everyone. So I think once we had this kind of idea, the visual kind of language for that, we created a kind of narrative then, which led us on this, like, how could we tell the story of booking in the 25 years and all of this kind of influence and impact that people have had. So we created a short video animation that we illustrated to kind of tell that story and kind of put people's names to faces and that kind of elements to it. So hopefully this plays okay and the sound works as well. Please tell me if it doesn't. No.
Got no sound.
Let me throw back to you and we'll try that again.
Let me mute and
Bump this thing up.
Your dream has now increased,
Wait, you're okay.
making the world so distinctly diverse.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, it struggled a bit. It started to sound and then it drops off a little bit, but
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we can send over the videos after if there's anything you want to see. Keep us going, Sam.
yeah. So once we kind of created that video, it just gave us a whole lot of assets and kind of elements that then we can then use to sort of roll this out as a campaign then. So we all these lovely illustrations that kind of depict the scenes and setting the place to the kind of business that we could then use for the comms of this. So we could tailor the messaging as well to the place. So thank you, Bell, Amsterdam, for being our home, because Amsterdam is the home of Booking.com. Then we could just roll these out through different elements of the business. So I think Booking had these plastered on their walls at some stage in their offices, these huge illustrations. So it was really cool to see. I think it really had an impact. People then really took notice of them, and I think the sort of remit of thanking kind of was felt a lot by the people involved in that. And then we could just roll it out across the city. So Amsterdam has a lot of kind of avenues for us to use to promote the kind of campaign, and then from that we could we could roll it into all different kinds of things that kind of felt relevant to the city that people would take notice of. And then because we created the video ourselves and it was all done in-house, we could take snippets from those and we could create a whole suite of animations that then could be used across social media to promote the campaign. And these would just be set on a loop. I think they're in the deck here, but they were just little snippets of the reel that were cut down. Then we could use them. They had a Booking held huge events for this. Birthday bashes essentially, and then we could just do the invites for them, and again just taking snippets of the video we created and bringing those to life through things like emailed invites and stuff. And of course we merged from that. Booking.com love give out freebies to their staff because they love to see people around the city saying kind of promoting their business. It's not quite uncommon to see people with the booking backpacks and with the booking merch kind of going about their day-to-day life. So they even create some t-shirts for them that kind of imbue that little message, just thanking the people for their collaboration and their sort of impact on the business. Some more merch, some good little notebooks that were given to the staff, then to jot down their ideas, and of course birthday cards were another little nice element we created from that as well. Again, for celebration, people could use them for the booking birthday or just for themselves. And then of course travel merch, because who doesn't love some stickers and travel tags.
Sam's being quite modest here. Sam did all of the illustrations for this and storyboarded it, worked with our motion team to bring this idea and visual to life. It was hugely successful and dressed the city and celebrated a big milestone for their business in a way that felt quite contemporary, quite playful and quite fun.
It was it was like 2 weeks or something like that we did it in, so it was
2 weeks, yeah. So I there might be in Sam's revelations at the end. I think the timelines get quicker when you come into the job market, but something to get used to.
I think it's kind of testing into the strategy behind that as well. I think once you've got a really solid idea and got a good sort of strategic team behind it, I think once you sort of start writing out the timeline to it and planning your story, it can be really fluid and really quick if the idea, the sort of core idea is quite strong. Yeah. I think this project was very smooth. I think there wasn't really any hiccups. It just kind of we kind of got it out there quite quick. So
cool. I'm going to share a piece of work with you now that's not client related. This is a project that we did based on an internal conversation that somebody in a client servicing team observed that all of the canals in Amsterdam are named after guys, and we was like, well, why is that? We know that the way in which we design and name our spaces and environments dictates our behavior. It changes the way in which we interact with each other. So we wanted to create a project and a platform that tackles that problem. So the brief for us was actually kind of how do we use our city as a way to raise awareness for a widening gender gap in the Netherlands. And I think when people think of the Netherlands, they think of it as quite an inclusive, quite a developed nation. But the Netherlands went from 8th to 27th in terms of gender rankings in the world standings. Is slipping. The gap between men and women is becoming wider and wider. So we wanted to create a campaign and a piece of work that closes that gap, that raises awareness and knowledge around the issue to make it a more equitable place for women within the city. This came from rebranding our city from Amsterdam to Amsterdama. Amsterdama being the feminine of Amsterdam, and then changing the icon of the Amsterdam crosses to a symbol of femininity. The name itself was a simple twist and change, creating that smile in the mind, something that is immediate and hard hitting. What we did with this was create a whole series of posters that were meant to raise some eyebrows and awareness around the campaign. So these were plastered throughout the city. We spoke to the local government, and it's called the gemeente, which is the council in Amsterdam, and said that we wanted to rename the canals. So in Amsterdam, if you've been, there's canal belts, which are super iconic, and they're the Prinsengracht, which is the Prince's Canal, the Keizersgracht, which is the Emperor's Canal, and the Herensgracht, which is the Gentleman's Canal. And we wanted to rename these to the feminine. So we actually went out and guerrilla fly posted over all the street signs on the canals and changed them to the feminine for the month of International Women's Month within the city. We also were given by the council a team of 50 university students that went out and fly posted the city. Super cool to see the work kind of out there in the world, in windows, on lampposts. And our team went out to the International Women's Day March to kind of raise our flag and to raise awareness here. And I think the reason why I'm sharing this is to kind of say that, yes, you can do commercial work, but it's also really important that we're doing work for causes and issues that we believe in. How do we use our creativity and our skill sets to enact change in the worlds in which we live? And it can be a simple idea that is easily executed, that has quite wide impact. So this is something that we're building out as a platform. For the first year, we released a microsite that had women-run businesses in Amsterdam. We created a panel discussion at universities that had influential Amsterdammers, so influential women in Amsterdam, to host panel discussions on innovative ways in which we can close the gender gap, but really looking at using a platform to create change was what we're all about. So this was some of the women in which we profiled across government and business, but it was something that was picked up quite widely in the broader press, from design press, but also some of the kind of the wider news as well. But a really kind of lovely piece of work that now is a platform that we're running year on year. We did a piece of work this year for the local elections where we created a mirror site of a local elections site which was called STEM Visor, and we made a Fem Visor which gives you more information on the parties that have policies in place for women's equity and equality. And now we're looking actually at partnering with Miro, the website, to create a campaign and a platform which uses the power of creativity, briefed towards students, actually again at how we can use creativity to close the gender gap. So an ongoing initiative and project that we're working with local businesses in Amsterdam to kind of do some work that does good in our community, that celebrates creativity. So something that's a little bit different in terms of, this isn't client work. This is purely self-funded and self-initiated from us as a business, and looking at the way in which we can use our beliefs and passion points to create change in the world in which we live. So that's our second case study. We've got a bit of a TikTok post that brings that together. I think 5 years ago, there was always a tote bag in every presentation, but I think now you probably need a TikTok post in every presentation to remain relevant. So here's a summary of our campaign. We also rebranded the universities as well. So the University of Amsterdam, the Hogeschool, was the University of Amsterdam for the month of March. Very timely, as we're just coming into International Women's Month in a couple of weeks. I'm going to give back to Sam, who's going to run us through our last case study, and then we can pause for questions. Oh, I'll tee us up, actually. Zach, an interesting project. This is actually a Heineken brief, but Heineken looking to innovate beyond the world of beer. Heineken's Dutch-owned business. You'll know it for Heineken Green brand, but they also own a ton of brands. Amstel, Birra Moretti, Cruzcampo, the list goes on. They're huge. But what they're looking to do is stretch beyond alcohol into new categories for growth. So the project here was a new to world brand creation for Africa, to create a new energy drink that captures the spirit of the African continent. I think the background is that within Africa itself, they only have Western brands. It's just Red Bull and Monster. There's nothing that was made for the people of Africa that captures their spirit of energy. And Africa is the generation, it's a continent of youth. There's some crazy stats. I think it's around 75% of people are under 35 years old. It's a really dynamic continent where there's a lot happening, and there's a real appetite and energy for stories of African energy and African identity to come through in design and creative. There's an insights. All of the work that we do needs to be based on insights. We're not just creative for the sake of creative sake. It needs to fill a purpose and have relevance. When doing this piece of work, the insights were based on connection. It was about connecting consumers with a brand on an emotional level. It was being reflective of our consumers' environments, of where they live, of avoiding kind of cultural cliches and codes. So when we look at Africa as a nation, it's really important that there's work to be done to immerse yourself in the culture to truly reflect the values of the people and the codes of design of that continent, so that we're not misappropriating culture. And then lastly, speaking to that energy of potential. So how do we do something that feels dynamic and progressive? So in short, the unlock here was to kind of borrow, build, and blend all of these things to create a brand and a brand identity that is fit for a youthful and vibrant continent and collective of people and consumers. So that's a little bit of the strategy, and Sam can talk us through the work.
Yeah, so I think the kind of insight of that was releasing the energy within. I think the thing that makes malt-based energy drinks a little bit different is that they're actually more nutritious. And I think that's something that the market really looks at. So it's not just about releasing energy, it's about nourishing the person. So it's like releasing this energy within was the kind of core idea. Then it's like we thought about the kind of sensory experiences that kind of bring that to life. So how does it look like? What does the brand look like? How does it fit within that category? How does it move to fit the release the energy within? What kind of sounds can we use to kind of play on that idea and the anticipation and the kind of release of that energy? And then these other sensorial kind of experiences to help really ground that and make it memorable for people. So we created this whole brand idea based on the bolt. So the bolt is the sort of central element to that we could emanate everything out from. So the idea is that it's about doing things your own way. It's not about following the system. So it's when the world zigs, you zag, and you do things your own way, take your own direction. So we created that kind of assets that lend into that idea. So even the brand mark, you kind of read it on a zigzag because it's set across two lines. And then we have the bolt kind of embedded in there between the Z and the A. So we created this whole kind of brand identity that fits the category in the market, but it does it in a sort of new, bold, and disruptive way. It doesn't play into the cliches and the kind of expectedness of what is currently there. I think the market is very masculine. You've got lots of bulls, you've got lots of bullets and muscular bodies on the packaging. And we wanted to do something that kind of would fit the youth of today and being across the gender spectrum as well. So this was the packaging we created that. So the brand mark is just really bold. It really plays into the idea of the Zag idea, but it's very bold and it really stands out on its own. So from that, we were able to create a whole sort of series of animations that kind of lead into the idea of energy being released and how does that look like? How do we use the bolt to kind of tell that story? These play okay. So it's just about leveraging those assets then and really playing on that visual language of releasing that. And then we can create all sorts of assets from those as well. We have patterns that kind of play into the sort of African nature of that in a really respectful and unexpected way. And then we could use that for all sorts of kind of activations and branding. So it sort of the visual style that we created dictated our kind of art direction in terms of illustration. Then we could lead into how that lives in the world then. I just wanted everything to be really bold, really impactful, kind of tell the story, not oversell what the proposition is. And then we could use the structure of that to kind of lead into our variant. And so again, bringing in those really bold colors that really catch the eye and kind of not over deliver, not over promise, just kind of really clearly say what the proposition is. And then about how we use those kind of motion assets and how we can bring the brand to life at a more sensorial level. So it's about bringing the textures, the kind of ASMR elements to make it more memorable and more engaging for the people that are consuming this. And then it's just a kind of overview of how the world looks for that. So we kind of just all the elements together.
Yeah, so this was a new to world brand that launched in Nigeria last year. Has since then it's overtaken Monster and Red Bull in the markets in which it is now launched in Africa. We're currently doing some work with Heineken to take this to the Americas. So it will launch in South America with a view to create a global brand. So quite nice to play in some kind of regional codes and semiotics to begin with an eye to how do you create something that's globally relevant in proposition as you move forward. Cool. Oh, we're doing another. No, we don't have time for this one.
Yeah, we skipped this one, didn't we? We'd love to do it, but I think it's just too long in the tooth for this. So.
Sam's giving you a sneak peek into another beer brand that we did here called Windhoek. Sam.
So yeah, just on the theme of 13, I thought it would be nice to kind of put together 13 kind of lessons that I learned as a new designer coming into the industry. And hopefully these will be kind of helpful to people sitting in the audience there. So number one, probably the most important, is ask questions. I think whenever you come into the industry, into a new studio, it's really important that you understand what's going on, how the processes work, what you need to do, what you're being told to do, whether it's clear. So it's ask questions about what's going on, ask questions about what it is you're supposed to do, just so you have the clarity and that you gain that experience then through that. You're allowed to make mistakes. I think this is really critical to developing yourself as a designer. Is just allow yourself to make mistakes, not be too hard on yourself whenever you do. There's parts built into a studio, so if you make a mistake on a project, it's not the end of the world. You've got a whole team of people to support you and to back you up. So just take risks if it means that you're going to create a great piece of work from that. And number three, stay curious. So always look at what's going on in your studio, what your other designer colleagues are up to, what projects are in, what's going on in the industry. So keep an eye on the websites like It's Nice That, just to see what kind of projects are sort of hitting the news and what kind of trends are out there. Number four, upskill yourself. I think this is really important as well. Nobody's going to teach you new skills to make you a better designer other than yourself. So it's be just proactive. What kind of things do you want to do? There's no sort of linear path in a design career, so it's kind of up to you to kind of steer yourself in what direction you want to do. If you want to be a typographer, then take up typography in your spare time, do it outside work. Take up 3D motion, things like that can make you really useful for your studio and for your colleagues as well. So just teach yourself these things. Get comfortable outside your comfort zone. I think one thing when you come into a studio is there's a lot of things you don't know, and sometimes you're asked to do something that you might not really know how to do it, but just it's being comfortable in that situation. So if someone asks you to do something you don't know how to do it, just give it a go, just try it. Again, you're allowed to make mistakes, so it's okay to be outside your comfort zone now and then, because it helps you develop and push yourself forward as a designer. 6, do the weird shit first. And I think this comes down to whenever you're doing a project at the beginning, just get all the ideas that you have in your head out there on paper. Anything that you think that might be funny or might be relevant, just get it out there on a bit of paper and then have that discussion, because there'll be cases where silly little idea can actually spark something that becomes really invaluable to the project. So do that sort of stuff first, and then it's easier to reel it back to the more sensible stuff afterwards. Get some coffees. So I think this is kind of a trope for new designers, that they're making tea and coffees, but it's actually quite a good way to get to know your colleagues and to kind of embed yourself into your studios, just to be helpful. Ask people how they're doing, if they want a cup of coffee, and then you can maybe chat about things in the studio, and it's a way to open conversation and help you get to know everyone. Build a network. I think this is really important, especially when you're leaving university. Stay in touch with your university friends. Find out what they're doing, where they're going. Talk to your new colleagues as well. I think when you start to build a network, it becomes really invaluable for your personal growth and your development. I think if you find that where you've ended up isn't really fitting where you want to go, then you can use that network to help you move to a different place, or even just to help understand how your friends are developing as well. Every day is a school day, obvious. You're going to be learning stuff every day. And I think it's just something you're going to have to get used to. There's a lot we don't know, and a lot that you won't know. But I think just gaining that experience and being open to learning new things is really important. Variety is the spice of life, especially in design. So it's try to get yourself on as many different projects for as many different clients, as many different avenues as possible. I think it's really good to gain all this experience in these different kind of avenues in packaging, comms, strategy, anything you can really get any pie you can get your finger in. I think it's really beneficial for your growth. The client isn't always right. Number 11. I think it's maybe
Usually not right.
Yeah,
Usually not right.
it's a bit controversial, but I think a lot of the times when you get a brief, the client thinks they know what they want, but they might not always know what they want. And I think it's kind of our responsibility to just sort of decipher and decode what the ask is, look at the challenges, and then we can feed back to them what we think they should be doing and how they should probably approach this project. Don't eat the second brownie. So this is a bit of Amsterdam advice. If you ever come to Amsterdam and you want to partake in the local cuisine, if you're offered the brownies, never eat the second one because it never goes well. Nobody really understands the strength of the stuff here. So
Speaking from experience.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, there's been incidents. So yeah, we'll leave it there. And then the last point, I think this is probably the most important, is it only gets easier. It's really tough in the beginning. There's so much challenge for new designers, so much they don't know, so many processes to take in, and so much technical knowledge to take on. It's really difficult to kind of wrap your head around all of it, but over time, it just gets easier. It gets easier from the start. I think when you start to gain that experience, when you start to live in that studio environment, it all becomes easier. It becomes less stressful. The processes become more clear, and it really just becomes more enjoyable and more fun when you've got over these first initial hurdles. So if you go into the industry and you think, oh God, this is not for me, it's so hard, just give it time, because I promise you it does only get easier with time. So yeah, there's a 13 little life lessons I learned. Well, rounded it down to 13. There's probably more than that, but yeah.
Any questions?
Any applies there?
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.
Do you have any questions for us?
Is there any questions? Got the midweek blues. It's Wednesday.
It's too close to lunchtime. We'll need some dew, I think.
Any
There's,
brownies? That was great, though.
cool,
Yeah.
and we finished a little bit early. Thanks so much for letting us prattle on about what we do. We love it, and we're very aware that we kind of live in our worlds and it becomes a bit of an echo chamber. So we value the time to kind of get out and speak to you guys and the school and the next generation of our industry. So it's a pleasure to have the floor and have some of your time today. So we really appreciate that. If there's any questions that you've got as a follow-up, I know that you've got Sam's email as he's been in touch, but you can always reach out to us. If you want my email, I'm happy to give it. Jump on a call. I can speak to anyone. We've got an open door policy. So if you mull anything over and you're thinking about anything that we've shared today and it sparks a thought, reach out. Please drop us a line. But yeah, thank you, and we'll share over the recording.
Thank you very much indeed. I know you're very busy. Oh, one question.
Go for it.
One question. How
Do
would
you
you
mind-
recommend it? Can you hear that?
Do you mind repeating it? We can't quite hear from the microphone.
I'll repeat it. How do you stay up to date with new styles and trends in the industry?
Cool. Yeah, how do you stay up to date with new styles? I mean, trends is it's risky, right? I don't feel like you should be designing work based on trends. You should be designing work that's culturally relevant. So I would always avoid trends and leaning into trends as a way to present your ideas. If your work is culturally relevant and trendy and right for the brand, it's a win-win-win. But a trend isn't it's something to kind of tick list when we're creating stuff. I think making sure that you're aware of what's happening in culture and being alert and tapped in beyond just design is a good way to kind of stay up to date on trends. So look at what's happening in art, in music, in cinema, in fashion, in the broader cultural sphere. That way you can draw on broader insights that make your work more distinctive. But trends, use with caution, I would say.
I think it's good to stick. You can look at the sort of design showcase websites, and you can stay up to date on what's going on LinkedIn. But I think there's only so much you can get from that, because usually when you see something on there, it's been done. So I think if you're trying to gauge new ideas and stuff, it's probably not the place to look for it. That's just something you really have to set yourself, isn't it?
Is that
Yeah. So
does that answer the question?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask, has the client ever surprised you and gone for weird shit?
Has a client ever surprised you and gone for the weird shit?
Oh yeah, many times. We would always try to have multiple routes in a presentation back to a client, especially in a pitch. And you always have the safe one where you feel like you've delivered on the brief. This is the answer, and you always think they're going to pick it. And we always like to have the bulletproof route, which is if there was no brief and there were no kind of constraints around what it should be, what do we think is right? And I think often you share that back, and if you present it with enough strategy and it's got a decent insight behind it, the client often goes for the weird shit, and that's super fun, right? Like that's cool. That's what we're here for.
I've got a question.
Do we get another one?
At that initial part, that ideation phase at the beginning, how do you approach that? How intense is it? Do you use a lot of different processes to get the initial ideas in the bag and then go out into Crazyville and then come back with ideas and kind of work those into something that's workable? How much time would you spend on that? Would it be a small group? Would you work in different groups and then come together and collide ideas? Or because I'm just interested in that phase, is because it's so important. That's where the crazy shit can come. Not become realizable as you spend time with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important you make space for that, right? And like it's almost like a diamond, so you need to expand at the beginning and then you refine and edit once you've got your ideas. But it's dependent on budget and client brief as to how much time and how big that team can be. I think also need to be mindful of people's kind of working modalities, in that not everybody is extroverted, not everybody does well in a workshop and in a brainstorm, and understanding the team that you have means you can better place fit a team together to go out and ideate. I think kind of my main thing is to get away from your screen and get out into the real world to see where the brands, where your work's going to live, and use that as your ideation bank. That's probably my biggest kind of bugbear is Pinterest, and designers coming back to a crit session where we've just got swipe pulled from Pinterest and they're trying to sell it as an idea. That's not an idea, right? It's about like what's the problem in the world and how we're going to fix that, and that can come from anywhere. And I mean, like, having teams go out and do that together is great, like, because it brings in collective thinking. but yeah, we were big believers in championing that.
And I think also like taking pen to paper is a really important process as well. And there's so much that you can accidentally do that works, and it's something you would never do on the computer if you're just doodling and you think there's something there that links back to something that you've done previous. I think it's really important to kind of just go through that process rather than jumping ahead and collecting a bunch of images from the internet.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Cool.
I think that's it.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day speaking to other agencies. I hope they're not as good as we are. And when you graduate, drop us a note. We're always looking for the best talent, and yeah, keep us in mind. But good to meet you all.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Take care. Have a good day.
That was a good beam as well, wasn't it? Well, thank you, everybody. Oh, you're on. So, what do you reckon? It was a half one. That? Yeah, I think he's. Are you okay for half one, Johnny? Yeah. 1:30 for Johnny. Johnny's here. Is that okay? We get back for 1:15. Yeah. What time is it now? Yeah. About an hour. Martini. I don't know. You'd have to ask the. Probably by looking at it now. Yeah. Yeah. Seems to take a slightly relaxed view of the raffle. I'm just the PA for the raffle.
I'll bring some money at the meeting.
So, did you say you've got email addresses for these guys?
Yeah.
The reason being, I've run a design set thing,
Yeah.
so I'm interested in the ideation phases within
Yeah.
groups.